meaning of that particular quotation is, I am who I am. That's the meaning of that quotation. There is also another second quotation, but I only restricted to the first quotation, which is related to the Hermetic philosophy of Hermes. The teachings of Hermes were based on the writings of Hermes, obviously. So his works were of a great source of inspiration to the Western people. So Western people at that point of time, they were very happy with his teachings, and they had also an esoteric order to learn the deeper aspects of his teaching. So she mentions about an old book. If you remember in the Before the Veil also, she talked about an old book. Here also she is talking about an old book, which the present persons having knowledge of the old rare books will find it difficult to imagine. It's not something which they can easily imagine and say how that book looked like. You'll find it difficult to imagine, she says. And it is written on some fabric. And what fabric it is written, people are not able to understand. So the book was written on a fabric, and it is in Hebrew language. And the content of it was all occult. Occult is secretive, the one which is Gupta. Book of the Ancients, concealed mystery, book of the ancient which concealed the mystery was written based on the old books in Hebrew. So most of the books of that time, ancient literature, were based on this old book which was written in Hebrew. This book now is almost extinct. Only one copy, I believe, is somewhere in the museum somewhere, but otherwise the book is not printed now. So she talks about an illustration which appeared in the book, that old book, where a biblical character Adam, as we all know, Adam and Eve, the Adam, he emerged from the divine essence. But when she wrote in the book, it looked, from Adam the divine essence came is what she wrote, but then the editor has corrected it saying Adam emerged from the divine essence. So it began by forming a circle, a loop to form a circle. As the arc made rounds, as the arc which came out made rounds, it reached the highest point. It went on circling and went right up into the sky. And as it went on to the highest point, and then it went back and came down to the earth. This is how she has described the process which was there in their book. So the essence of Adam came out like a luminous arc, and it formed a circle, a small circle to begin with, and then there was a bigger circle, then another bigger circle. Like that, the circles went up and reached the highest point, and then it went back and came towards the earth. So it was luminous to begin with. As it came towards the earth, that is perhaps emanation, she calls it. As it came towards the earth, the arc became darker, darker, and darker. When it finally reached the earth, it was black as night. So that's how she describes the process of emanation which was there in that old book. So to begin with, it was all light, and as it came down, it lost its luminosity and it became darker and darker and darker till it finally reached the earth. It was black as night. So same thing was also mentioned in the Secret Doctrine, that there is a plate which is there with a dark background, and she finds point in the center of described in the Secret Doctrine also. A particular idea she is introducing. She says there are two words, male and female. You may call them positive or negative. So these are the two words she is using. And everything is static before the manifestation. So in a state of latency means before anything started. Latent means just manifestation. In a state of latency, it was the night before the manifestation. So in a state of latency, it was the night. Manifestation as such was day. So Brahma's day and Brahma's night. Night is equivalent to pralaya, day equivalent to emanation or srushti. Basically, there are three potential factors. She says, basically, there are three potential factors in addition to the two which he has mentioned above, space, time, or two, and the cause from which these are emanating is the root cause of all. Space and time are two, and the cause from which these are emanating is the root cause of all. So there is a cause, and there are two things which have emanated from it, which are called the space and the time. So if you draw a triangle, she says, if you draw a triangle, the apex of the triangle, the top portion of the triangle, where both sides of the triangle go and meet, that is where you can perhaps put the number 1 and call it the source or the root of all which is happening, root cause. That is, the apex portion is the root cause. And at the base, the first angle on the left-hand side is the male, and the second angle on the right-hand side, or the base of the triangle, is a female. So this is how she describes how the triangle was drawn, shown, showing the root cause, and the base of it, one triangle was male, the second triangle was a female. So this is how she describes. The second number also can be called mind, she says. The second number also can be called mind. That is, in the base there is, on the left-hand side, there is an angle which is formed. That can also be called mind, she says. And number 3, the other side of the angle is matter. So she's slowly introducing what is exactly how it went about. Mind is the active principle, and matter is a passive principle. Passive means a thing which lies and receives everything. Mind is the active principle, and matter is a passive principle. Active and passive, that's what she said. Mind is the active principle, and the matter is a passive principle. Matter is also very important because it is passive. We should not dismiss it. Matter is also very important as it has divine power. Mula Prakriti is what the name which is used in the secret doctrine. So the matter, the root content of matter is also very important. So small atoms in that matter are also changing places and moving with that substance, within that substance called matter. So there is some change happening in the matter also. There are atoms which are there, which are changing places, and there is movement in that also. So it's also live, but for practical purposes, it looks like a latent power, a power passive principle. So this is what matter is all about. And the mind is the thinking principle. The ideation comes from that. The idea comes from that. An example she gives is clay is required by the sculptor. It is the raw material base. The mind of the sculptor is giving the clay a form or a shape. She gives an example of a sculptor for whom clay is required for the sculptor as a raw material or as a base. So that raw material is used by the sculptor, and the mind of the sculptor, in the mind of the sculptor, there is a form which is there already registered. That mind has got that form. Sculptor is trying to bring out that form in the shape of the clay which was there with him. So the clay is molded and the shape comes out. So this is what she is trying to give by way of an example. So both mind and matter hold on to their places to create forms. So both mind and matter hold on to their places, hold on to their importance to create forms. So we all know that the story of Adam and Eve is allegorical. So we should not just go by what it is in print. So allegorical, we'll consider that some other time, but we should more concerned about the matter and the mind, the space and the time. These are all the factors which he has introduced, and the positive element, or the male and the female. So this is what she talked about. And she also says, in every human being, there are two elements in him, the male and the female element. In every human being, there are two elements, the male element and the female element. Where the female element is dominant, it has taken the shape of a woman. Where the male element is dominant, it has taken the shape of a man. But even in a man, the female principle is there. Maybe she's talking about Ardhanarishwara Tattva in a way. Both male and female the content of positive and negative are there in a human being. This is what she has conveyed. The philosophers of Hermetism, or people who followed Hermes, thought that the matter became grosser and grosser and it became dense as man did not use the matter, say, in his body in the right way. The Hermes, followers of Hermes, they thought that the matter became grosser and grosser, became more grosser and more grosser as days rolled by, and became dense as the men did not know how to use the matter in their bodies in the right way. So even today, that is the case. The human body, to begin with, was half ethereal. Half was ether and half was matter. To begin with, that was how man was made. Half was ethereal, half was gross matter. Over a period of time, due to the misuse of ethereal part, got separated from man, and the whole physical body became grosser and full of matter. This is how we have the physical body which we have now. This is what the Hermetic philosophers, quite plausible that this could have been true. The human body to begin with was half ethereal. Ether now is the chief component of our etheric double, the one which just adjacent to our physical body. But before, to begin with, the physical body was half ethereal, half matter. But because we did not use that body properly, the ethereal part got separated and the whole physical body became denser and denser, grosser and grosser, and became full of matter. When man was half ethereal, half matter, he could freely travel to unseen worlds and universe. So that was something which happened because he had half the body which was made of ether, half the body which was made of water, matter. He could travel anywhere to unseen worlds and in the universe. He could travel anywhere. That was perhaps the gift of God to man at that point of time. But after the passage of time, gross matter, which is the main component of our physical body, has become not suitable for travel to unseen planes of existence. So as people started living, the ethereal portion of the body got separated and we lost the ability to travel with our physical body just like that. Before that, the ethereal half and the matter half, which are components of the physical body, that person could easily travel to all the unseen worlds and anywhere in the universe. That was possible for him. But later on, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chappan, sir.
Some other screen has come. That's why I'm wondering. Some other matter is appearing on my screen. That's why I'm asking. Okay. According to the old esoteric information, man lived and died and they lived on another planet called Earth. According to the old esoteric information, man lived and died and they lived on another planet called Earth. So this is something, the other day also when we were considering, we have this Earth now and we have other 6 Earths in a different planes. So something like that, something to that effect. According to the old esoteric information, man lived and died and they lived on another planet called Earth. So some other planet was called Earth and man lived there before. Those species of mankind or people who lived in that Earth, were they of better fiber? She puts a question. Were they of better material because they lived in a different world? That Earth was different. So were they of a better fiber? Esoteric studies say yes. So they were made of a better material and so they lived in another place called Earth and so they were better people. The esoteric studies say that is true. Plato in his book mentions of a race who had wings. Plato in his book mentions of a race with wings. So man, according to Plato, in the beginning had wings. Perhaps he could travel wherever he wished to the unseen worlds also. But later on, those wings got separated. So only investigation can lead us to the truth, she says. So all these things which have happened in the past, only true study and investigation can lead us to the truth. Even to understand, even to just record the facts as she recorded in the book, that man was half ethereal, half matter, and then the ethereal portion got separated, and then the matter became grosser and grosser, as it is perhaps now. And there was another earth where man lived. So that man was different when compared to this man who is living now on earth. All these facts are worth considering and keeping in mind when we are studying this book. Coming back to the biblical story of Adam and Eve, the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge was tasted by Eve first and then Adam. In the story, the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge was tasted by Eve first and then Adam. That's a story where they came to know about what is good and what is evil. Having tasted the fruit, they came to know what is good and what is evil. So the human perceptions changed from that time, says the Hermetic philosophy. The human perceptions changed from that time as the days rolled by, as the days went on, and man started knowing what is good, what is evil, just as God knows what is always right. So we also know what is right and what is the right which you have to follow and what is the evil which you need to avoid. So God knows always what is right. But man, because he experimented with that tree of knowledge, realized what is good and what is evil also. So he has both present to him, or both are available to him. As the part of the divine being, man is divine being. As a part of the divine being, man started coming down and down. The being started wearing various types of vestures suitable to each plane. This is exactly what Theosophy even talks about it now. As the part of the divine being, man started coming down and down. The being, this is a small b, it's not a big B, capital B, the small b. And as he started coming down, he was wearing various types of coats. That's what COATS, that's what he used. But I am giving it an expression called vestures, means bodies, suitable to each plane. So he started coming down bit by bit from the top plane to the below planes below and wearing vestures suitable to each of those planes. When the divine man came and touched the earth, when the divine man came down and touched the earth, the vesture was the grossest and thickest suitable to the physical earth. So now what we have is what we are presently having, the physical body which is suitable to live on the physical earth. But that old book says half of that was matter, half of that was ethereal. So that's something interesting. Maybe by constantly meditating, this is something which I am adding, by constantly meditating and sending thoughts, assertions that my physical body should become light and lighter and lighter, I can get into that stage again and move upwards and upwards, upwards. Though the physical body is lying here, the physical body becomes lighter through meditation, and I move out of the physical body and move wherever perhaps I can travel. So this is possible. In the beginning, man's sight was unlimited. He could see anything and everything. Very, very interesting, isn't it? The man could see everything and anything. Man's sight, drushti, was unlimited. And he spoke with reason. He always spoke with reason. There was no flippant speech, no speech without reason, no wasteful speech. The speech was always with reason. So this is what the original man was. His sight was unlimited. He spoke always with reason. And if he sees a thing or an object, he knew about it all at once. If he sees a thing or an object, he knew about it all at once. So there's nothing like explaining to him, this is how the seed will be, this is how the tree will be, this is how the flower of the seed will be, and then the fruit. So if he sees a mango, he can know everything about it. Something very interesting. So in the beginning, man's sight was unlimited. See anything and everything. So we have perhaps over a period of time lost the ability to see everything. He spoke with reason. He spoke with reason. There is nothing unreasonable in his speech. It was always reasonable. And there was always a logic behind his speech. If he sees a thing or an object, he knew about it all at once. in one go, he would understand everything about that object or the thing. This was the various faculties man had in the beginning. The universe is having the spirits which are immortal and helpful. The universe is having spirits which are immortal and helpful. So there are spirits which are helpful, which are immortal, which live always. All men born have to evolve and become godly. Sons of God, she says. All men born have to evolve and become godly or sons of God, as esoteric Christianity describes. I don't know, perhaps even now they start saying in a loose way, we're all sons of God. But do they really mean what that sons of God is? That means he has to realize the divinity in him and become part of the ultimate. That's what it is. But this is what she's saying. There are spirits which are immortal and helpful. Some spirits are wicked and mortal. So we have both the evil and the good. So some spirits are immortal and helpful. Some spirits are wicked and mortal. So they're mortal. Pernicious is the word she has used. Pernicious. So that is the quality of some spirits, and they are also mortal. They die. They don't have a long existence. But all men born have to evolve and become sons of God, as esoteric Christianity describes. This is the object of a man. This is the goal of a man. When we withdraw our senses from operation, concentrate on self-purification, they're the steps. When we withdraw our senses from operation, concentrate on self-purification, all human beings transform into divine beings. This is a wonderful statement, which perhaps we should practice. We know a bit of this. We know this theory of this. When we withdraw our senses from operation, concentrate on self-purification, all human beings can transform into divine beings. When Bhagavad Gita talks about this, withdrawing of senses, like a tortoise withdraws within its shell. So when we withdraw the senses, I believe there is a scope for self-purification. Because we are not anymore operating based on senses. So withdrawing the senses, and all human beings can transform into divine beings. So this is possible, is what she says. And she says one more thing. Man is an antique piece. Man is an antique piece living a quiet number of years, maybe 250,000 years back, according to an European scientist. This is what she has put in the book. Man is an antique piece living for quite a number of years, since 250,000 years, according to an European scientist. So this is what she says. We are there for quite some time. Man is living for quite some time. So he has been progressing for quite some time. HPB says, as said by Plato, the spirit of inquiry should continue right through. Only then we may understand the true nature of man. So this is what everybody is saying now. All people talk about spirit of inquiry to find out, know thyself, who you are, what is the composition of you, and what is I. This is what people are talking about. HPB said at that point of time, quoting Plato, the spirit of inquiry should continue. Only then we will understand the true nature of man. So what is the true nature of man? So we know that there are two components in it. The component which falls off, the component which is permanent, mortal and immortal part of it. So we should know what is the nature of man and not concentrate on the lower portion. The lower quaternary, as we call it in the Theosophical parlance, has to be taken under control. Then we have got the chance, opportunity to go up and know the real person who is living within us. Then, is everything man is physical, or there is something else to his nature? Is the next question she's asking. Is everything about man is physical, or there is something else to his nature? what is physical, what is not physical. She's asking that question. Is there anything else beyond physical? So this we have to ponder over this question, and we should know, perhaps we know theoretically even now, that we are not the physical beings. There are other areas where we can really travel and find out what exactly we are made of. So this is what she is suggesting. And she says one more thing. Man has moved from barbarism to humanism. In the beginning, he was very cruel. Barbarous in his approach. Now he is moving towards humanism. Again, not all are humane, I guess. Though barbarism might have come down, inflicting pain on others must have come down. But humane people, we're not finding many. So we have to think about it very seriously, whether we're really moving towards humanism, humane kind of people. Are we going to become that? Have left all the cruel ways of living behind us? And she says again, man has changed from uncivilized to civilized state. To begin with, he was uncivilized, and now he is more civilized. This is also, we know, the Stone Age man was how he was living, how he was eating, and all that. Now the civilized man, what does he do for living? So we know man has moved from uncivilized state to civilized state. To support the above view, HPB gives details of excavations and their proofs in the book. So a lot of proofs have been given, a lot of engineers, a lot of anthropologists, a lot of people who have gone down, dug into the earth and found out the tools with which they lived, the tools which they hunted. All those things she narrates in the book. So this is how man moved, and HPB is tracing the history of man as he is now found and what he was some time back. Now talking about science, you see, HPB wrote things in this book as they appeared before her. So she did not plan a derivative fashion of writing. So whatever came first, she wrote about that man. Now she's going to science. Maybe she'll go back to man again. We do not know. But she goes here and there. There is no plan. At least the editor could have done all man at one side, all universe another side, something like that. But then this is how the book is. Talking about science, HPB says there is a veil. Veil means cover. There is a veil which has been used to cover the ancient science. Talking about science, HPB says there is a veil which has been used to cover the ancient science. It is difficult to see through this veil. It is very difficult to break this veil or lift this veil and see what is there within. So it says it's very difficult to see through this veil. That is one reason why the modern scientists are not able to use that knowledge that well. Why is that we are not able to use? Means we are not having access to that particular knowledge because that has been veiled. What is not reachable? So they say ancient science is of no value. That's what the modern scientist is saying. What is not accessible, what is not reachable, he simply dismisses, saying that since I'm not able to look into it, it may not be of that use, is what he is saying. It may not be of that big a value, is what the modern scientist is saying. So this is how she went on tracing what exactly man was all about. And now she picks up another interesting subject, which we all know. She talks about mathematics. She quotes Plato and says all the metaphysical views were based on mathematical principles. So we think metaphysical thing is something which is not physical, that is all. But she says, Plato said, all these metaphysical views are based on mathematical principles. So there is a maths involved, there is a numbers involved, combination of numbers, all these things put together is what we understand is metaphysical content. So metaphysical is based on mathematical principles. And true mathematics is connected to all higher sciences. This is another statement of one Mr. Magicon, Magicon. True mathematics is connected to all higher sciences. So mathematics, the importance of mathematics as one of the, she is suggesting, she says, Plato said, all the metaphysical views were based on mathematical principles, and true mathematics is connected to all higher sciences. So mathematics has got tremendous impact on man. The sacred numbers explain the universe. The sacred numbers explain the universe. Numbers in their esoteric combination solves all the riddles of emanation. So this is something very interesting. The sacred numbers explain the universe. It all talks about the universe. An entire description of the universe or the essence of the universe is conveyed through the sacred numbers. That's what she says. Numbers in their esoteric combination, not a combination which we know outside, but in their esoteric combination, means the secretive combination, solves all the riddles of emanation. So the Srishti has got so many things which we do not know, but there is a theory, there is a calculation behind all this emanation. What is Pavitramayana, numbers. So she is now emphasizing the importance of mathematics. So she says mathematics is perhaps the base for all the permutations and combinations that are there in the universe. So the sacred numbers explain the universe. The numbers in their esoteric combination solves all the riddles of emanation. Man may be having so many pondering questions, how this has formed, how that has been formed, how more water is there in the universe, and why only 1/3 of it is only land. So many things might be there in the mind of a man. So the sacred numbers and their combinations, which are in esoteric mode, they solve all the riddles of emanation. What exactly, how the Srishti came about, what are all the unknown things which are apparently I'm not able to throw my eyes on it and understand it. They are all based on mathematics, esoteric combinations of numbers. And so that's how the riddles of emanation can be solved by a mathematician who is not of an ordinary learning of mathematics, but somebody who knew the esoteric meaning of mathematics or the numbers. Not someone who knows 2 + 2 is 4. No, there must be something else behind 4. So that person perhaps would be able to solve the riddles of Srishti or emanation as it came about. So mathematics, especially geometry, is very deeply connected to the emanation of the universe, is what she says. So in geometry, we have various forms, various theories which are there. So the geometry portion of mathematics is very deeply connected to the emanation of the universe. So the way the Srishti came about, the various forms it took, the various forms which are finding place in the universe, the geometry is what she is saying. For example, square, she takes about square. Square has got no projections on any side. It is a perfect square. Let us imagine a perfect square. So that square, which is a perfect square, symbolizes the physical and spiritual powers of Almighty. We are not unduly concerned about the physical powers. He may be having a lot of physical powers, but what is more important is the spiritual powers of the Almighty. So the square, physical as well as the spiritual powers, also the emblem of moral justice and equity. Moral justice, just, which is appearing absolutely perfect. That is because of the square shape. And someone is absolutely morally straight. It is because of the square. So the square has got immense possibilities of trying to drive this principle of moral justice and divine equity. Similarly, she says number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a sacred number representing him, that is God. Number 4 is the sacred number representing him, that is God. Him is H capital, so God. Number 4 represents God. That is the divine number, she says. So we do not know how this 4 can be interpreted. 4 qualities or 4 aspects of God, something which you have to think deeply to understand how 4 represents the Almighty. Normally we say Satyam, Sivam, Sundaram. There are three which we are talking about: wisdom, strength, and beauty. Maybe there's a fourth element to it. So number 4 is the sacred number representing him, God. So this is how mathematics, she says, is closely connected with the coming out of the universe, emanation of the universe, and everything is based on mathematics, especially geometry. HPB now is talking about the ancient philosophy, and says the scholars of Vedas, people who are expert in Vedas, 2000 years before Christ, knew about the roundness of our globe, rotundity about globe. Rotund means someone who is appearing, obeys, and she is saying 2000 years before Christ, the Vedas, the scholars of the Vedas knew how the globe looked like. The globe was a roundish thing, is something which they knew about. And also that Earth and the planets revolve around the sun is something which the Vedas talked about. The Vedas talked about also this heliocentric, as they call it, heliocentric philosophy. It means the planets, the earth, they revolve around the sun. So this is something which the Vedas have taught 2000 years before Christ. This is what she is quoting from the book. So Plato had access to the Eastern wisdom. Plato also had access to the Eastern wisdom. Especially, he knew the above truths. He was exposed to the Vedas, the translation of Vedas, and also he knew access to the philosophies of writings of Vyasa, Jaimini, Kapila, Brahaspati, and so many others. So how they came to know, how they had access to perhaps the languages which perhaps they didn't know. Were they translators then? Where translating was so effective that others could follow? We do not know all this. But if you take an example from HPB's own life, she knew any subject or every subject as if she has studied that subject when she was writing. When she was writing, she knew about natural science, she knew about physics, she knew about Shakespeare. There is nothing which she didn't know. Everything was known to her. And a lot of people know this. I have talked to a couple of people on this. There is a beautiful book, The Voice of the Silence, which was translated from a Telugu original, is what HPB said to her sister when she wrote to her sister. The Telugu original had 139 axioms, whereas she could by heart only about 39 or 40. So she produced that book, Voice of the Silence, from a Telugu original. So did she learn Telugu, or by looking at the Telugu she knew what exactly to understand, how to present it? So these are all the qualities of the old ancient philosophers which were there. And over a period of time, because of specialization which we are taking into our life, we have lost the track of understanding anything we see. Because she mentioned about an old version of man who could understand everything as he saw everything. Entire thing about that particular object or everything he could understand. Maybe they still continued in that mode, whereas we have lost that capability. So this is how Madam Blavatsky has traced a couple of things which she talked about in the first chapter. Religion in its essence should show the way of life. ఎలా జీవించాలి మనిషి అనేది, ఇలా కాకుండా మూఢనమ్మకాలతో ఆలోచనకి అవకాశం లేకుండా ఇది చేయాల్సిందే నువ్వు అని ఫోర్స్ చేసే డాగ్మాస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో అది రిలీజన్ కాదు అని. అలాగే ఏన్షియంట్ సైన్స్, మోడర్న్ సైన్స్. ఏన్షియంట్ సైన్స్ లో మనకి సరైన ఆధారాలతో వాళ్ళు ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్స్ చేశారు అని. అయితే దీని మీదంతా కూడా కవర్ కప్పబడింది అని. ఎందుకు కవర్ కప్పబడింది అంటే, ఎవరికైతే సరి అయిన అవగాహన ఉన్నదో వాళ్ళు చూస్తే వాళ్ళు సరిగా అర్థం చేసుకోలేరేమో అని ఒక కవర్ వేశారు అని. కాబట్టి మోడర్న్ సైంటిస్ట్ ఏం చేశారు, అది చూడడానికి ప్రయత్నించి అర్థం కాక అంత వేస్ట్, అది ఏం లేదని అవతల తీసి పారేశారు. కాబట్టి మోడర్న్ సైంటిస్ట్ యొక్క ఆధారాలన్నీ ఫర్మ్ ఫౌండేషన్ మీద, సరైన ఫౌండేషన్ మీద లేవు అని రాస్తుంది ఆవిడ. కాబట్టి మనం మోడర్న్ ఫౌండేషన్ దేనికోసం పనికొస్తోంది? మనిషి ఎక్కువ కంఫర్ట్స్ వైపు తీసుకెళ్తోంది మనిషిని. నేచర్ని ఎలా ఎక్స్ప్లాయిట్ చేయాలి, నేచర్ ఎలా ఏమి చేయకుండా ఉంది కాబట్టి ప్రతిఘటించకుండా ఉంది కాబట్టి నేచర్ని ఎంత దాకా ఎక్స్ప్లాయిట్ చేయొచ్చు, ఈ విషయాలన్నీ సైన్స్ ద్వారా మనం ముందరికి వెళ్తున్నాం. పర్వతాలని కొట్టేస్తున్నాం, ఇంకో ఎక్కడికో సముద్రాన్ని వెళ్ళి ఆక్రమించేస్తున్నాం, ఇవన్నీ జరుగుతున్నాయి కదా. ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్ ఆర్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ ఇన్ ద నేమ్ ఆఫ్ సైన్స్. మన చేతితో తీసేసేది కాదు అది. ఏదో కవర్ ఉంది అనుకుందాం, మతం మీదో లేకపోతే సైన్స్ మీదో లేకపోతే మనకు తెలియని విషయాల మీదో. ఆ విషయాల మీద ఉన్న కవర్ తీసేయాలంటే మన చేతితో తీసేసేది కాదు, మన మనస్సుతో దాన్ని ఛేదించాలి. కాబట్టి మనస్సు ఎలా ఉంచాలి, ఎంత షార్ప్ గా ఉంచుకోవాలి, ఎంత కరెక్ట్ గా ఉంచాలి అనేది ఆవిడ సజెస్ట్ చేస్తోంది. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఎ వెయిల్ విచ్ కెన్ బి రిమూవ్డ్ అని. ఇంకోటి చాలా అందమైన విషయం ఒకటి చెప్పింది. వెన్ వి విత్డ్రా అవర్ సెన్సెస్ ఫ్రమ్ ఆపరేషన్, కాన్సన్ట్రేట్ ఆన్ సెల్ఫ్ ప్యూరిఫికేషన్, all human beings can transform to divinity. They can become godly. And the object of creating a man is that he becomes a god, godly and matter. He will not replace the ultimate principle, but he will possess all the qualities of the person who created him. So daniki em jaragali ante we should withdraw the senses from operation, concentrate on self purification, and then the human beings can transform into డివైన్ బీయింగ్స్. ఇది చాలా ఎప్పుడో 1877 రాసినా కూడా ఇప్పటికీ ఈ రోజుకి చాలా రెలవెంట్ విషయం. ఆర్ఫియస్ ఒక సిస్టర్ పేరు ఐసిస్ అని. ఆర్ఫియస్ అనే ఒక గ్రీకు తత్వవేత్త కూతురుగా చెల్లెల పేరు ఐసిస్ అని. ఐసిస్ అంటే నేచర్ అని ఒక అర్థం. యూనివర్సల్ మైండ్ అండ్ థింకింగ్ ఈజ్ వన్ అనే ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ కూడా చెప్పింది. యూనివర్సల్ మైండ్ అండ్ థింకింగ్ ఈజ్ వన్. So the entire thinking of us goes into one particular place where it is stored. And lekapothe Plato, how could he access the works of Vyasa, Jaimini, Kapiludu, Brahaspati, people like that? How did he know what Vedas conveyed? So all these interesting aspects of how the wisdom can be tapped by anyone who wants to tap, that's also evident in this. Plato had access to the writings of Vyasa, Jaimini, Kapila, Brahaspati, and Sumati. I'm hearing that word for the first time, Sumati. Maybe wife of somebody, but that name also is there. All that we understand, all that we need, all that we study, when we consciously leave it to the universal tanks, for example, it stays there. Whosoever wants to tap it, say Srinivas wants to tap it or Mamata wants to tap it, they can tap and take the information. I believe this is possible. So this is what the earlier philosophers and people who lived at that time did. And even now people are doing.